Let's have a look at this and I'll tell you what they're about. It's Just Stop Oil who are protesting in London throughout October. At the weekend, you can see here motorists dragging protesters off the street. The question is, of course, should the public be taking matters into their own hands? The Queen's speech in May proposed making locking on. That's when protesters actually sort of either glue themselves or lock themselves to various items. After the government failed to pass the measure earlier this year, they want to try and make it a criminal offence. Natasha, is it acceptable that members of the public dragging protesters off, even if they are blocking the roads?
I can understand this frustration completely, and I'm sure our readers can too. You know, these are people trying to get to work. You've not played the clip of an ambulance, which I think, sorry, a fire engine, which was earlier trying to get through. I think people will be outraged about that, saying exactly what are the police doing? They're just standing there in many of these pictures, unable to act. And I think, you know, many people will say, what are the government going to do about this?
Where are you, Sonia?
I mean, I agree with Natasha on the frustration, but I would caution any member of the public sort of looking to engage like that, because I think you're putting yourself at risk, of being accused of assault by the protesters. So, I mean, I think we have to be... I mean, I personally don't think those protesters are doing their cause any favours at all. In fact, I think they're turning people off it. But I think we have to be very careful about how we sort of look to police public protest. I think some of that stuff would just, you know, fall under the category of the police are able to move people on anyway. But I think we've got to be very careful.
They don't, do they? They don't move them on. That's the whole point. The whole point is that they're you know, they don't look very stuck there, to be fair. You know, but at the end of the day, you've had people padlocking themselves to things, gluing themselves to things. Police just stand there doing nothing, and it's a bit unclear what powers do they have, can they move them on, and these people are disrupting not just, you know, people getting every day to work, but also vital services in this country like ambulances and fire engines.
Do they need more powers, or do they need to be able to protest more robustly then, Natasha?
I think, you know, at the end of the day, you know, it's quite unclear what the police's powers are in this. I think it would be very helpful for them, I think, to know whether they could or not remove these people, because there is a lot of confusion about what they can and can't do.
I think it's more clear than sometimes the police even want to admit.
They just
I think they have the powers, and then well, I mean, a police officer will often be making a judgment about whether they're going to make the peace worse, as it were, if they act. But I mean, you know. The truth is, I completely agree with what you just said about this is not helping the cause. But I also understand. I have kids in schools in the Rhondda who say to me the thing that they worry most about in their lifetime is climate change. And so
disputing that. No one's disputing the idea of the protest. It's about the way that they're doing it.
Well, it is slightly the point.
But does that justify that?
No, of course it doesn't justify that action. But I think we have to. You know, every time the government steps back from its commitments on climate change, for instance, by telling the King Charles that he can't go to COP27, I think it just makes people more desperate, more angry, and I want us to tackle climate change because I think it's the single biggest danger to humanity.
The topic is not the issue. People should not have their lives disrupted by self-appointed demonstrators who think they have a God-given right to glue themselves to tarmac and prevent people from going to work, ambulances getting through, businesses getting on with their business.
How would you tackle it?
There are many, many ways of protesting, demonstrating freely, without violence, without disruption, that are far more effective than the counterproductive measures that they are bringing in. So why did you not support the measures in the bill which would have made it even easier for police to deal with this?
Because I don't think they do that. I think they make it more difficult for the police to do their job.
The police have more powers, but the frustration of me and my constituents is that the police seem more concerned at times with giving them water and asking about their welfare than moving them out of the way and letting people get on with their lives. And that's where people are really frustrated.
I mean, do you think that's true, Sonia? I mean, Liz Truss has said in her conference speech, I will make sure that militant activists such as Extinction Rebellion, separate to this particular group, are not able to disrupt ordinary people who work hard and do the right thing and go into work. If you think they're not doing their cause any good, do you think there'll be more public sympathy for toughening up the law on this?
Possibly, but I think I'm not sure that the issue is the law. I think it's genuinely very difficult when you've got people coming and gluing themselves, like gluing their hands to things. That's something that's quite difficult for the police to deal with. And actually, we have seen the police sort of use different tactics. So I've heard, for example, you know, this week, the police were spraying a special substance onto these to sort of melt the glue and remove the protesters. But these aren't easy things. And I think it's wrong for the Prime Minister to suggest that there's a very simple legal lever that can be pulled. I think we should, as a society, be saying to people, this isn't the way to protest, though. You know.
I mean, well, what do you say in response to Sonia?
Well, I think other countries look on and think, are we mad, where we just don't remove them. And I'm not saying we should be violent towards them, but actually we've got to send out a message that this is completely unacceptable. These are the ways you can make your point. We are a free society. We have free speech here, and you can make it much more effectively. This is not the way of doing it. And the priority of the police must be to make sure that members of the public can go about their daily lives and business. And if there's anybody standing in the way of that, then they need to be dealt with. And the penalties...
There's no answer.
The penalties
There's no
need
answer.
to be considerable.
If
I were to go and demonstrate and create myself as a just stop the oil protesters, I would probably get removed rather more forcibly than this lot are. That's not right. It's double standard.
Yeah, is it
I do think you need to be careful about giving police indiscriminate powers, and that's because actually we've seen cases where the police have overstepped the mark and interfered with people's free speech.
Not asking for indiscriminate powers. Using common sense is what we're asking to do.
The police are actually quite bad at making some of these judgment calls.
Final word, Natasha, on this to you.
Yeah, no, good arguments on all sides, to be fair, but you know, what's completely clear is that the current system isn't working. Whatever's happening, it's not working right now. But at the end of the day, I think these guys, the Just Stop All protests, aren't going to stop, no matter what laws are in place. You know, they should be looking at exactly how they can do it in any way possible, to be fair.
All right, that's all we have time for. Thank you very much to all of my guests today. There'll be more Politics Live tomorrow at 11:15 on BBC Two and on BBC.